So my interest in food and where it comes from started a long time ago. Although I grew up in Canada, in one of the most cold regions in Canada, my family always grew a garden. And I still vividly remember my mom covering up the garden with bed sheets to try and elude frost damage when the temperatures began to dip. But I recognize I grew up in a middle-class home where I had access to fresh foods and where my mom had time to cook us home-cooked meals nearly every night of the week. Unfortunately, this isn't the case for many people living around the world. I guess the most jarring experience I've had in terms of just how important our food environment is when I was doing my master's research in an Aboriginal community in northern Quebec in Canada. I was shocked to see that the few vegetables in the community's only store were both rotting and exorbitantly priced. And alongside these rotting vegetables were aisles and aisles of cheap, ultra-processed foods. And if that wasn't bad enough, they even trucked in buckets of KFC chicken from Montreal, which was 7 hours by road, into the community. And they sold it at the grocery store. The problem is that not only was the food environment suffering in this community, its members were also suffering. So how has this happened? One thing for sure is that our food environments have changed, and diets have changed along with it. We've lost the connection with food and where it comes from. Sometimes when I look at food labels, I'm completely puzzled as to what the ingredients actually are. Things like preservative 220 or color 160B. Seriously, what are we eating? The problem is we're eating what's available, affordable, and acceptable. And the issue is that those foods are often associated with ill health, and that needs to change. As our world has become more globalized, so too has our food system. It's led to the infiltration of transnational food companies throughout the system. And these companies are everywhere. I mean, they're even floating down the Amazon River in their own boat. It's that bad. The issue is that their relentless pursuit of sales and profit growth has led to our food environment becoming saturated with unhealthy foods. Let's take the case of India, where I do my PhD work. India has traditionally grown a variety of what we'd call heart-healthy oils. But along came globalization. The borders were opened up for trade, and they started importing huge amounts of palm oil, which is really high in saturated fat, which is the unhealthy fat. This has led to, the reason why they're doing that is because it's very cheap and it's very widely available. So it's entered the food supply. It's entered the food supply in processed packaged foods. It's entered the food supply through the public distribution system at a subsidized rate. And the government has even started growing its own palm oil in the country. But this problem is not only in India. Palm oil has become the most consumed and exported oil on the planet, thanks to massive investment by the Indonesian and Malaysian governments. This has led for its uptake in processed foods. So a lot of the processed foods we consume now have really high amounts of palm oil. But it's also leading to the destruction of the environment. And if you don't care about the health perspective, which I'm sure you do because you're here tonight, but if you didn't, then surely the destruction of local orangutan species would cause some harm or cause some worry. Australia, like India, grows various heart-healthy oils, but now it too is importing about 6.5 liters per person per year of palm oil. This has led the consumer organization group Choice to try and make it mandatory to label palm oil use on the food labels. So they're lobbying government to do this. But I don't mean to be picking on palm oil. In addition to our food becoming laden with unhealthy fat, it's also become very high in salt and sugar. So what are we going to do about it? So the first thing I think we can do is vote with our forks. The food industry makes products that they think we want, but by demanding healthier products, we have the power to influence what ends up on our grocery store shelves. We can refuse to buy products with more than 5 ingredients, or those that more closely resemble chemicals than food. The second way I think we can act now to improve the quality of the food supply is by advocating for strong regulation by government that makes it easier for all of us to make healthier choices. We need to embrace the nanny state. We need to support consumer and civil society organizations when they take on initiatives such as trying to get palm oil labeled on our food products. We can ask for limits of salt in foods or limits to marketing of unhealthy foods to children, or taxation of soft drinks, or subsidies for fruits and vegetables to low-income families. But where I think we can really make a difference now is in the local food supply chains. Although it's important to think globally, we need to act locally in terms of the food system, whether it's by supporting local farmers markets or just buying the locally produced products in the grocery stores. We need to start buying products that are produced domestically. As demand for these products increases more and more, this will create a larger and more stable market for these farmers, which over time will increase supply and bring down the prices. The good news is that the local food movement is gaining momentum. For example, Grow It Local is a consumer organization that crowd-surfs produce. So basically, you put your patch on your vegetable patch on the website, and then you can share your produce with your fellow neighbors. You can trade your, I don't know, fava beans with apples. So I hope there'll be a lot more patches here tomorrow. This is Melbourne, so. And alongside with these consumer-initiated responses to the food system problems, I think that we can use local government to speed this process along. We could take a similar initiative as to Japan and Brazil and ensure that 30% of all school food budgets are spent on locally grown foods. This has three obvious benefits. One, it increases access to nutritious foods for children. Two, it creates a more stable market for farmers and will give them an economic benefit. And three, it decreases food miles, which will have a positive impact on the environment. New York City is taking the lead in many respects in terms of improving the quality of the food supply, including by increasing access to fresh fruits and vegetables. They provided 1,000 green carts, or 1,000 vendor licenses for green carts that are only allowed to sell fresh fruits and vegetables in the city's boroughs. And more recently, New York City doctors have begun providing prescriptions to low-income families at risk of NCDs for fruits and vegetables. So basically, it's turned farmers markets into pharmacies, which is pretty cool. And Melbourne, you guys are taking the lead in terms of Australia with your food policy called Food City, which aims to source 30% of all food consumed in the city within a 50-kilometer radius by 2020. So these types of initiatives can and are happening in Australia and globally too. And in addition to these initiatives aimed at increasing the quality of the food supply, we need to ensure that learning how to cook is a part of every child's education. We need to restore cooking classes and food education in the school curriculum, because test scores are really important, but ensuring that children have a knowledge of what good food is, where it comes from, and how to prepare it has the potential to influence multiple generations. So, reconnecting with the food system will not be easy on the global level. It's a complex problem, which many people have alluded to throughout the night, and it requires multifaceted solutions involving various sectors. But we can't use that as an excuse for inaction. Ensuring that healthy foods are available, affordable, and acceptable will require passion, persistence, and strong vision from government. We can demand healthier products and greater transparency for those products. We can eat and buy local and cook from ingredients rather than from boxes and jars. We can commit to closing inequalities in terms of access to fresh fruits and vegetables and demand strong and bold leadership from government in terms of regulation. So I hope I've convinced you we need to take action in terms of improving the quality of the food system. So take out your forks and vote. Thank you.